some of the key messages that we want to give from Elkrig's perspective is that this is the start of a journey. We know that we haven't got all the answers, but we will soon have the answers with your help. Carla said in the word storm that came out, collaboration is one of the key pinnacles of what we do. So I want to get the panel up in a second, but just to set the scene, we're all using AI at the moment in different ways. With the current de rigueur is around about using AI for highways inspections, but it's much, much, much more than that. So please, that's the broadness of what will hopefully come out of the conversation today. And I'm going to give one of the previous speakers from the earlier panel session, James Hallock, culture of curiosity. To be curious is an excellent facet in somebody's ability to move things forward. And for innovation, which is including AI and how we do things differently, you've got to be curious, ask those questions. There are a whole host of things that we do. Like I said, you're probably looking and using AI now, looking at what time the train's been delayed or how long it's going to take you to drive down the M6. You're using it even if you don't know you're using it. But the key message is that you shouldn't always just rely upon the output from AI, whether that be ChatGPT. You're always going to need an element of human intervention, because otherwise you get comments like wonky message. Now, what's a wonky message? Because somebody's misheard you. Check something before you actually sign your name away, because once it's on there, you'll never get rid of it. But another key message is we're not replicating that others are doing. We've recognised, we've listened to our members, to the sector. There is a gap, when we're trying to fill that gap in whichever way we can. So, collaborate, have the conversation, and how do we get the best out of AI? I'm now going to invite the panel to come and join me on the stage. So if I can ask my esteemed colleagues, and as they walk in the Strictly fashion, give them a round of applause. So, esteemed colleagues who are sitting on the panel, a little bit of housekeeping. You're at the end, aren't you? You drop the mic. Right, but can do that. We found from earlier feedback, when you're speaking, if you can be close to the microphone, because there's only goes up to volume 8. So there's a noise constraint on this. So when you are speaking, make sure the mic's on. And if you can't hear you, there's a roving mic just in case, just to pass that through. So I'm going to start off because, again, as I said, you're not supposed to read what's in front of you. I'm going to ask you to, each of you, give a very quick introduction of who you are, the organisation that you represent, and a question for you all. Why do you think you've been invited up to sit on the panel? I'm going to start down at that far end.
Hello. Scary. My name's John Ingle. I'm from Westmorland Furness Council. I've worked for Blackpool Council and Cumbria County Council in the past. I'm currently the Highways Asset Manager, and my experience is basically highway inspections. And I think I've been invited because I volunteered basically, but I've been quite keen on innovation in highway inspections, from digital inspector projects with Blackpool and Geist years ago, to now using video inspections and AI inspections. So I've got quite a bit of experience in that regard. So I think that's why I was invited.
John.
Afternoon, everybody. So I'm Jo White from National Highways. I I spoke yesterday about our Connecting the Country strategy and how customers will experience travel now and in the future, and the increasing use of digitalisation. So digital data and technology, it's in our lives more and more each day. And as the kind of Research, Development and Innovation Director, we are going to see more solutions to our grand challenges, proposing the use of AI in helping us to solve those. So I think I'm here because actually, there's lots of things that National Highways are doing in the AI space, but we also recognise the increasing use of it. And whilst there are lots of opportunities, there are also risks with doing it. And as Sean said, we're at the start of the journey, so this is a really good opportunity to talk about all of those.
Thanks for that, Joe. Simon.
Hi folks, my name's Simon Wilson. I'm Research Programme Director for the Future Highways Research Group, which is 50 authorities. We have spent the last year mapping all of the functions that exist within highways service, and we have been mapping against those all the potential opportunities for AI against 7 classes of business benefit, but also the TRL levels of the AI for each of those functions. So we're launching for the highest TRL levels, we're launching fully inquiries handling AI agent as a sector demonstrator later this year based on ChatGPT, which links to inquiry handling and through to inspection scheduling. So that's a trial that we're building at the moment. But we'll be working our way across all the various functions within highways.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Simon. And we'll have a little bit more opportunity to learn what we do. And by no means least, Sir David.
Everyone, my name's Greg Haig. I lead the...
Why did I call you David? I don't know. I'm really sorry.
I'll start again then. My name's Greg Haig, and I'm Head of Data Science for the Department for Transport. And I think I've been invited today because I have maybe a different perspective sitting within a central government department, but I'm also a practitioner. I have a very technical team. We lead our internal AI program where we're at the coalface, looking at the algorithms, and so hopefully I can help sort of bring a different perspective in that regard too, and maybe demystify some of the complications that people are afraid of. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. I apologise for that. You look like a David that I know. I apologise. And I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to try and make up for it and give you the floor to start with. From the department's viewpoint, what would you say the regulatory and policy challenges in integrating AI into the highway sector? And how do you see the DFT assisting or how it's going to be addressing those issues?
So I think these challenges are significant. I think with lots of AI, people worry about safety, and particularly in this sector, that's paramount. People's lives are actually at risk. So I think, the right framework needs to be in place to allow innovation and allow some of the positive things that AI can bring, but it also has to incorporate all the safeguards that are required to ensure that was it wonky answers, wonky questions?
Bring wonky answers in, yeah, please do.
The wonky answer equivalent of road safety needs to be safeguarded against. And I think it's very challenging. So you need to strike the right balance between allowing innovation that's going to help the public, but also safeguarding against some of the risks to safety, etc.
Okay, thanks. And I'm going to follow that theme and come to you, Joe. So from a national perspective, obviously with the UK highways network that we operate, what opportunities do you see that there are for AI to enhance the efficiency and the safety of the UK's highway network, and what steps are being taken by your organisation to ensure that these technologies will be implemented effectively?
Thanks, Sean. I'll give a couple of examples of some trials that we're running at the moment where we're using AI. So in the kind of safety space, we're working with police forces to use AI to detect people who are, believe it or not, still not wearing their seatbelts or using their mobile phone whilst they are driving. We've talked about the impact of, and the tragic impact of accidents and collisions on the network. If we can, save lives by supporting police forces in this respect and encouraging people to wear their seatbelts when they are driving, then, that is absolutely the right thing to do, and really important to use AI in that space as well. Equally, we're also running a number of trials looking at how we can improve the customer experience through roadworks. One of those is looking at how you can use traffic flow data to improve the way that we schedule roadworks. And we've recently completed a trial on the M6 where we saved around £45,000. We've improved journeys for around 2,100 people, and also optimised the kind of the shift work as well. So for, really looking at, are we putting shifts out at the right time, and really looking at that efficiency space. So those are just a couple of the examples of some of the stuff we're doing at the moment.
Brilliant, thanks. And obviously, Elk Creek represents authorities large and small, and organisations large and small. So, John, I'm going to come to you on this one, if you don't mind. So, Westmorland and Furness County Council is not quite a national highway network, is it? It's quite rural, shall we say?
Very, very rural, yeah.
Yeah, and a number of colleagues around the room will be able to relate to that. So, given your experiences in there and Blackpool, you mentioned you worked at previously, what are the primary challenges that you foresee in integrating AI into local highway management? And again, how do you see those can be overcome?
I suppose one of the primary challenges that we have is acceptance of by our workforce and members of this technology. So when you've got AI on your condition survey, acceptance that that's an applicable, a good, consistent condition survey, and will actually give you the results you want. So that might be in our teams internally to get them to go away from what they've previously used to plan their work. So getting them on board and accepting it. And I think that's a little bit, I think we've mentioned previously on one of the slides that fear about what AI is, and I think it's very important that it's a tool there to help us. It's not going to solve everything. We've got to be, that human element has got to be there for everything we do. I think it's telling the people in the organisation that they're still important. This isn't going to replace them. It's not something to be afraid of.
Yeah.
It's something to embrace and trial and try to develop and actually get involved and develop it in the way that works for us as an industry.
Absolutely.
So we need to be there doing these bits of innovation and actually taking that risk, that step forward, so that we can develop it for how it needs to work for us as an industry.
Yeah. And again, it's a blatant plug to watch the video from Stoneleigh. It's part of the conversation that we had then. It was around about the impact of the human side of things, and the ethics of, is AI ever going to replace people? Well, it's not, because you're going to need people to do that check and stop the wonky donkeys and things such as that. But we've got to recognise that on this journey, as with everything else, we've got to take that moral, that ethical view of how this impacts as well, and remember that this is people's lives. We're looking to enhance their lives, and it's around about not just enhancing their lives, but we saw earlier before, the primary engineer presentation. There's probably some kids on there that are better, more computer literate than a number of people in the room. And they're the ones that are going to be providing us with the skills that we need in the future. We don't know what they are. AI will be overplaced or replaced by something in the future, no doubt. But this isn't ramblings of Rooney. So, Simon, you sat there patiently for a few moments, thank you, and your stoic silence is unusual. I apologise if it upset you. So with the work that you do at FHRG, so how can AI-driven data analytics improve the maintenance and planning of the highway infrastructure? And again, because you're overseeing across the board, what do you see the potential barriers to its widespread adoption? See, we're talking about adaptation too much, not enough. It's four of my mind. Give you a few more seconds to think there, Simon.
So this is a couple of steps down the path. I talked about mapping all the functions within highways authorities and looking at the TRL, the technical readiness level of AI, to play a role within that, and then scoping the business benefits for engagement. When it comes to optimizing the deployment of internal resources, we see a lot of promise in that, particularly in small signals analysis. So the predictive nature of it. So some of the case studies we've looked at, one is probably pretty well published, is for Subway, where an AI looked at Subway's operation end to end. It was one of the poorest performing case studies, and detected things within their operations that human beings would not have detected, because it looked at the detail. It looked at the person that was driving a truck that made a delivery every Friday on this. So by drilling into the detail, it was able to detect the weaknesses in each of the processes, each of the human behaviors that overlaid those processes, and made recommendations that could have improved. Whether they took the recommendations or not, I don't know, but it's an interesting case study. It improved performance by 40%. So we see a lot of promise in using AI to oversee the data model of the organization, the KPIs of the organization, and then studying and making recommendations for change. So this is a little way downstream for us. We're starting at the shallow end, but this is, if you want to know the timeline for this, we're starting to look at that in October next year. So that's a year away.
Okay, thanks. And Greg, I'm going to come to you, because it's often the case, and I'm sort of sure you're fed up, with people coming to you and saying, you need to help us do this, and you have the answer for everything because you've got a bottomless pit of money, and you're the first DFT colleague in the last couple of days, not to mention the fact that you can't say anything about money, but we'll bring it around into the money side of things a bit. Told you I wasn't too serious, but it is an important question. So what I'm getting at here is that we as local authorities, we as small authorities as well, some of us adopt change better than others. Some of us have the ability to do things differently. Some of our colleagues aren't necessarily as open to change and the use of technology such as AI. So I think, what measures do you think you would be able to do as Department of Transport to ensure that the implementation of AI in the highway sector are inclusive for all of those and for the benefits of all those regions, including those with limited resources?
That's a very good question. And I think there are certain barriers that we can help sort of smaller organizations overcome. A lot of the road management is decentralized, so you get the benefits of the local knowledge and then sort of bespoke solutions that are applied locally. But I guess a consequence of that is there's a lot of defragmentation, and at a local level, there's less resource to come up with solutions that require high technologies and a lot of understanding. So I think maybe DFT's role is more around coordination to kind of centralize some of a more concerted effort, bringing together local authorities so they can help each other and learn from each other, and maybe work on a shared solution that can be applied sort of universally across the road network. I think that's probably a good starting place.
I think absolutely, and it's great to hear that, because obviously with the relationships that Elcric have with DFT, I think you're saying you're working with 4 or 5 different heads in Paula with DFT colleagues. So that's really good to hear, and it fits in with our collaborative theme. Joe, coming to you now. You mentioned, or you teased us a little bit, that you're doing lots out there. We could talk about this for the next 24 hours, I'm sure, but we've got limited time and space. From what can we learn from the national network, which is 2% of the nation's network, with 98% of the funding? I'm not going to say anything more than that because I am an apolitical officer. But, can you share us a few examples that could be scaled down, as it were, to a regional or a local network?
So I think there's a few things that I think we can do. The first one is really around the sort of the sharing of our learnings from our research and our trials that we're running with AI at the moment. And I think, the example I mentioned earlier about using AI to optimise roadworks, I'm sure potentially that could be scaled across to local authority. I think, and I think this goes for any kind of trial on the network. It's understanding the parameters of the trial. So whether we're talking about a motorway on the network or one of our A roads, how does that then transfer across to other parts of the English or and the road network per se, and really how can we then look to adopt and take on board the sort of learnings from that. So number one is kind of sharing that, but understanding that sort of level of transferability. I think there's also, we talk about trials, but I do really also want to pick up on the kind of the risks around using AI, and we're doing a huge amount of work, particularly in our sort of cyber futures space, to look at what are those guardrails that are required. And again, we're all learning in this space, so it is about how do we learn about using AI ethically, and that kind of check back that whatever AI solution you're adopting, what are the kind of the risks with that? For example, do things you put into a chatbot, do they go out into the public domain, and so on. So we have already published quite a few bits and pieces, and I know we've got some research papers in train. So I'm really keen, and we spend taxpayers' money. I'm really keen that we publish as much as we can about the research that we do and share that with you all.
That's really good. Thank you for that. Simon, can I come to you now, because we are beginning a journey about AI, and there's a debate, and we had again another plug because it takes 7 times to tell someone before it sinks in. Watch the video from Stoney, it's brilliant. One of the things that we touched on there is the difference between artificial intelligence and machine learning. So is it true artificial intelligence? Now, with that machine learning and that need for the human intervention still, I suppose question, because with your expertise, your knowledge, your wealth of experience, so you're making up for the insult before. What are the main challenges in training AI systems with accurate and comprehensive data for highway management, and how can these be mitigated? Because some of the data that may be required to do the better job of that simply isn't available.
I think this is a journey for AI as much as it is a journey for people. And it's going to start making lots of mistakes. Certainly some of the early prototypes that we saw made lots of mistakes. For example, one of the call handling systems got nicely misled into making less than polite observations about the leadership of a local council. So luckily that was sealed off. So there are a number of issues and iterations that we're going to have to go through. But the great thing about AI is it learns. So it can develop its own learning, particularly these sealed systems that do some very specific jobs. So there is a mentoring role that humans are going to have to provide for AI, and they will get better and better and better over time. We think that the benefits massively exceed any of the downfalls. I will push back a little bit at the issue that other people have raised, that we need to make sure that humans always have a role in some of this. I think for some areas where AI can play a part, I think that humans do not necessarily need to have a role. I think in the early stages, during the training, during the orientation, as they increase in their usefulness and their proven robustness, I think there will be a gradual retreat of human involvement. Then the test will be how much do they handle, how well do they handle volatility, new things that might emerge. And I think again, this is a learning journey for all of us. But let me just qualify that just very, very quickly. One of the biggest challenges that we have in this sector is a lack of skilled people. So for the authorities that make up the FHRG, some of them, their white-collar staff are 85% contractors or agency workers. And finding skilled people, and you look at the turnover and inquiry handling staff, who all need to be retrained, who work 7 hours a day, 5 days a week. There is a real temptation here to say, maybe AI, and this is part of the business case that we're mapping, working 24/7, 365, supervised and mentored by human beings. The business benefits for that are spectacular. So instead of a retreat in services as our budgets are cut, maybe we enhance our services and we leverage those benefits and manage the risks on that journey.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Simon. And John, excuse me, wonky donkey again. Your role as asset manager, it's about maintaining the assets, and that encompasses a whole host of things. And recognizing the fact that it's not just about replacing some tarmac, it's not just about filling a pothole. Part of your key role, having with experience of the asset management role, is, and again we touched on it, and I'm saying it correctly this time, the adaptation conversation at the moment is, what role do you see for AI in improving the sustainability and environmental impact of highway maintenance and operations at a local level? If you had a utopian blank piece of paper, you had this magic wand. Let's do it again.
I'm trying to contemplate that now, yes. My mind's gone blank.
No, that's fine.
Say that again, sir.
So, what role do you see for AI or systems improvements or things such as that in improving the sustainability and the environmental impact of highway maintenance and operations at a local level?
Yeah, well, local level, I think there's a lot of opportunity with using the AI to essentially give us our first view of where we should be treating everything, and with the condition surveys that we can do with the AI, so getting the first view of that, and then also we can potentially use it to suggest the works going forward, so that we're actually doing the right treatment in the right place at the right time. So whether that's suggesting that we do a surface dressing, or suggesting actually this has now gone beyond that level. Yep. And I think if we can use it to actually make us efficient in the materials that we're using there, so we're using the right material to basically get our carbon footprint down for the lifespan of the treatment that we're doing.
Sure.
And for that road asset itself, because using AI, we can potentially ask a lot more questions and deal with so much more data, so that we can see the potential, as the engineers looking at that on a particular section, we can see the potential for what we can do as a whole life carbon footprint on that for the best result in the end for the users, but also for the environment there. So I think that's a great way that we can go forward. And with lighting as an example, I know there's been some talk about lighting in the last day or so. I think using AI, we can maybe plan how we're going to switch the lights, dim the lights, and look at those instant reactions, which obviously we can't have somebody sitting with a button sort of pressing the road's not that busy now in the middle of the night, but we can use AI to maybe make those decisions for us and just improve the carbon footprint for the council overall.
Oh, that's brilliant. And my screen's gone amber, not red. Or is that a 1, 2, 3 or 5? I can't remember the new conditions. But thank you very much to all of you. I'm going to give you 30 seconds as a final comment, but we're all in a lift, and there's a very ripe camembert sat next to a stinking bishop cheese. So we're all in a confined space, so you want to be out of the lift as soon as possible. 30 seconds Final comments, Joe.
Context is really important. Whilst I totally agree, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for AI in terms of speeding up how we do things, the very laborious things, and being able to make very sort of quick decisions, that experience and expertise of humans to add that context to some of the answers we get from AI is really important. So, but I think we also just accept we are all on this journey together and we're all learning together.
Perfect. Thank you. Simon?
I think it's of all the things that we've looked at since the FHRG was formed, this one has the most potential to drive change and profound change. But as I won't disagree with Joe, I think that we are paddling at the shallow end at the moment, and we're all feeling it with our fingertips. I think as the business cases and the maturity improves, I think that we will be able to qualify and quantify where the benefits will come from.
Perfect. Thank you. Greg?
I think it's really sort of important to bear in mind that AI is here, it works, it's going to weave its way through everything that we see and do. At the moment it's difficult, it's challenging, it's technical, but it's going to get easier. There are risks, solutions will be found to those. So I think it's important to focus on the opportunities and be optimistic about this and to embrace the idea, because it's hopefully going to make the world a better place and the roads nice to drive on.
Absolutely. And finally.
Yes, obviously AI is here. It's going to develop more as we go along. I think it's important that we as an industry embrace it, accept it, and help control the narrative of how it goes forward in the future, and collaborate with each other as well. So we're all doing the same thing ultimately. We're trying to make the roads better and safer for everybody in the country, and we're benefiting from that. So we should all talk to each other, share the risks and share the experience really, and don't be afraid to take that first step.
And I think that's a very timely segue into me wrapping up. So thank you for that. Don't leave the States just yet. But what is next? That's always important. What's next? We will be working with Dan, with Carla, with Paula, in terms of developing. We're looking for case studies. We can all learn from each other, as we said there. We need to do that, and that's part of LCRIG's, one of the LCRIG's pillars of that collaboration. And we will be working through some FAQs. We'll be looking through, is it appropriate to do some kind of webinars or lunchtime lunch and learns and things like that. So we'll take that away, and we'll take the findings from the innovations report and the feedback from today. Make sure you do complete the feedback. But it is, as I said, it's a start of a journey. We've all said that. We are here to learn together. We're here to go on that journey together. And talking of journeys, like I said, the wonky donkey was probably telling you your train's due soon. So I've overrun, Paula. I do apologise for 5 minutes, but I think it's a really important topic. I personally would like to thank each and every one of you for staying so late in what is the end of a session on what has been a brilliant event, and I'm just building Paula's closing remarks up. But thank you for staying, because I know it's often not the favoured spot, but I think just look around to show the interest that is here still, listening to a madman with a panel of experts talking about something that is going to change our lives forever. So if nothing else, remember the wonky messages. Don't let have any wonky donkeys. Keep away from the stinking bishop and the ripe camemberts. But I would like to thank my colleagues, and if you could do so in the usual fashion, that'd be great.
Thanks.